Eyewitness News has learned the federal investigation regarding Police Commissioner Edward Caban involved his two brothers. Richard Caban, seen here in the center of this photo, is part owner of Con Sofrito restaurant and lounge in the Bronx, which is currently closed down. Federal authorities are probing if the 7 high-ranking NYPD officials, whose phones were seized in this week's search, had any influence on the investigation of quality of life issues by the Cabaret Squad, the NYPD unit that handles noise and other complaints about nightclubs. Eyewitness News has also learned one of the subpoenas involves James Caban. He and twin brother Edward look so much alike, he's often mistaken for the police commissioner and approached. As a result, he's been assigned an NYPD detail.
Welcome back to a very interesting edition of the Sal Greco Show. What can I say? You saw the opening, and let's just get right to it. It looks like the FBI seized a bunch of NYPD executives' cell phones, went to One Police Plaza, went to their computers, took the hard drive, made a copy of that. And then the IRS came and took copies of the hard drives as well. This involves many high-level people. It does involve Deputy Mayor Sheena Wright. It involves the Deputy Mayor of Public Safety, Philip Banks, a unindicted co-conspirator. It involves both his brothers, David Banks, who's the school chancellor, and his brother Terence, who apparently is an unregistered lobbyist. It also features 3 people who have been mentioned on this show and numerous times over the past 2 years, and that's the police commissioner, Ed Caban, his twin brother, James Caban, who used to be on the NYPD, he was a sergeant, and of course, he was also thrown off the job. He was also arrested for being a slumlord later on in the Bronx. And his brother, Richard Caban, who, as we all know on this show, is the owner of the now shuttered Hall of Felons, Con Sofrito in the Bronx, whose creator-manager is the one and only infamous self-admitted criminal and mob associate, Jimmy Rodriguez. So now that you have a little bit of background, let me read off some of the things that the news has been reporting on in regards to this investigation, which also some articles and some media outlets are talking about. Con Sofrito is the article in the New Yorker. Is the article in the New York Magazine by the great Errol Lewis. Does Eric Adams know how much trouble he's in? The mayor loves to wave off scandals, but this time may be different. Like the NYPD patrolman he once was, Mayor Eric Adams has been doing his best to keep a possible crime scene under control. Move along, folks, nothing to see here. But the dark cloud of scandal hanging over City Hall has proven to be bigger and thicker than his inner can blow away with breezy slogans and a sunny grin. On Wednesday, in coordinated early morning raids, FBI agents seized phones and or searched the homes of more than half a dozen senior city officials, including Sheena Wright, First Deputy Mayor David Banks, Schools Chancellor, and his brother Philip Banks III, Deputy Mayor for Public Safety, Edward Caban, NYPD Commissioner, and Timothy Pearson, Mayoral Advisor. And just like that, the leadership of New York's government was thrown into a state of confusion. Its mayor dealt what could prove to be a politically fatal blow. Everyone has heard from me from time to time. Stay focused, no distraction, and grind. Hisner later told a pack of reporters, repeating a slogan he often recites to children. Good luck with that. When 15 FBI agents show up at your house at 5 a.m., as witnesses say happened at the Hollis home of Phil Banks, it's safe to assume that the day's focus will shift from managing the city's bureaucracy to saving one's own skin. Ben Brafman, Banks' high-profile lawyer, confirmed that he did indeed get a call from Banks. As the city's small but ravenous pack of political reporters dutifully swings into action, led by the city, which first broke the news of the raids, Team Adams has tried in vain to make the story go away using hand-waving and bluster. Investigators have not indicated to us the mayor or his staff are targets of any investigation, said the mayor's counsel, Lisa Zornberg, in an official-sounding but legally meaningless statement. As Zornberg knows, the FBI is not in the habit of giving formal notice about the purpose of its search warrants to defendants, witnesses, or anybody else. That is why it shows up at your door at 5 in the morning. Over at One Police Plaza, top members of the NYPD are wilting under the heat, according to a jaw-dropping story in the New York Post. When the Post tried to reach Chief of Patrol John Shell for comment about the raids and subpoenas, the paper reports NYPD Deputy Commissioner for Public Information Tariq Shepard got on the phone and called the reporters a effing scumbag. Minutes later, the department reportedly kicked Tina Moore, the Post Police Bureau Chief, out of the press room at NYPD headquarters. How did we get here? Adams, a micromanager, appointed nearly every one of the people under scrutiny, even in the face of what outsiders considered big red warning flags. Phil Banks, who suddenly resigned as NYPD's chief of department a decade ago, was an unindicted participant in a corruption scandal a decade ago, in which two businessmen, Jonah Rechnitz and Jeremy Reichberg, bribed multiple officials and ended up going to prison. Adams appointed him anyway. Pearson took a job in administration while also initially remaining on the payroll of Resorts World Casino, where he was in charge of security. The shady double-dipping arrangement ended after the New York Times published a report about it. Pearson, appointed to the city's Economic Development Corporation, was later at the center of a melee at a migrant shelter that involved 100 officers, drones, and a physical scuffle with security staff. The NYC Department of Investigation is looking into the incident. Pearson has also been hit with 4 lawsuits accusing him of sexual harassment. Adams has not altered his duties. Commissioner Caban came under a cloud when it turned out his brother, Richard, was operating a Bronx bar and restaurant called Con Sofrito, a place where Adams celebrated his birthday, and NYPD brass liked the party, in violation of multiple building and fire safety codes and a judge's order to shut down an outdoor terrace. Richard Caban reportedly is among those hit with subpoenas this week. There are more scandals brewing from the prosecution of Adams' former building commissioner, Eric Ulrich, on bribery charges to the multiple convictions of people who illegally raised funds for the mayor's 2021 campaign. Where is all of this heading? For starters, Mayor Adams needs to tell Police Commissioner Edward Caban to resign, says the New York Post editorial board, which endorsed Adams in 2021. Even if he's cleared, bad blood will fester on. The only losers in this scenario are the NYPD and the people of New York City. Indeed, Adams likely needs to jettison every aide who now threatens to sink his mayoralty. It's unlikely that Adams will heed the advice. This is a mayor who seems utterly incapable of acknowledging any degree of fault. After last week's debacle at the West Indian Day Parade, where 5 people were shot in broad daylight, 1 fatally, before the gunman got away, Adams repeatedly called the day a success. When you look at that one person who we're going to find that shot 5 people, you remove that from the equation, and you got hundreds of thousands of people who were out this weekend and really heard the call of a peaceful Juve and a peaceful West Indian Day Parade. Adams said at the weekly press conference. So really, hats off to the teams. I spoke with several residents of the neighborhood who, like me, found City Hall's blind indifference to its own failures to be outrageous. We talked about it on my podcast. You decide. Worse still, according to the Post editorial, Adams faces persistent and often convincing criticism that he's a poor executive who too often values loyalty over competence. That weakness for familiarity comes at the expense of effective and clinical governance. Whether or not he acknowledges it, Adams now leads an administration that is in a state of crisis and falling apart. The mayor, as he often does, insists that he regularly reminds his appointees to follow the law. It never seems to occur to his inner that it might be better to hire aides who don't need a daily reminder not to commit crimes.
Isn't that true?
So there's a nice written piece by one of the bigwigs in New York City. That's Errol Lewis. Some people may like him. Some people don't like him. We like to agree to disagree. We may not like the same, we'll say, political candidates for president, but we do agree on the city needs to be run functionally. That is the main thing in the city. The most important thing that a mayor or or a governor or a president, public safety, and the continued governance of your administration. You cannot have distractions, and you cannot not also become a distraction. And that's the main point of this entire piece that was written by Errol Lewis. Eric Adams has become a distraction, along with many of his administration. But that's not all. We'll continue with another article about this entire debacle of the last couple of days. Here's from the Daily News. Terence Banks, brother of top NYC officials who was ensnared in federal probe, has clients with city contracts. Oh, boy. And this is from Graham Raymond, Chris Sommerfeld, Caleb Bamberger, and Evan Simcoe Benarski. All from the Daily News, who are doing an excellent job right now covering all this stuff. Terence Banks, one of two brothers of top officials in Mayor Adams' administration ensnared in a federal corruption investigation, is not a registered lobbyist, but keeps a roster of clients with business interests before Adams' administration, according to a Daily News review of public records. Banks, a former MTA employee turned government relations consultant, has electronics confiscated and residence searched by the feds Wednesday as part of a sweeping probe, in which 5 of Adams' highest-ranking advisors also had their electronics seized and home searched this week. The feds haven't disclosed the focus of their investigation, but sources tell the news the probe is looking at the role of Banks and the other brother, James Caban, in their respective business fields. Banks is the younger brother of Deputy Mayor for Public Safety Phil Banks and Schools Chancellor David Banks, 2 of Adams' most trusted advisors and among the administration officials targeted by the feds Wednesday. Sources say the feds are looking at the possibility of unregistered lobbying by Terence Banks. James Caban is the twin brother of Police Commissioner Ed Caban, who also had electronics taken and has come under fire of the FBI investigation. James Caban, a former NYPD officer, works at consultant providing security for nightlife venues in the city. His professional roles under scrutiny as part of federal probe. Investigators are specifically looking at whether he sold police protection to nightlife establishment, according to 2 sources familiar with the matter. No one inside or outside the administration targeted by the feds this week have been publicly accused of wrongdoing. Sources say the investigation appears separate from a probe into Mayor Adams' 2021 campaign ties to the Turkish government. Terence Banks, who didn't return a request for comment for this story, launched his government relations firm, the Pearl Alliance, upon retiring from a 25-year career at the MTA as a subway supervisor in April 2023. Pearl's website, as well as Terence Banks' LinkedIn page, were abruptly scrubbed from the internet late Friday, but the news obtained screen grabs of both. On its website, Pearl described itself as a firm that aims to bridge the gap between New York's intricate infrastructure and political landscape, the disconnect between opportunities and those capable of seizing them, and to support minority-owned business growth. Neither Terence Banks nor any employees listed as working at this firm are registered to lobby in New York, according to a review of public records. By law, individuals have to register with the state or the city if they receive income exceeding certain monetary amounts while lobbying, which is defined as advancing private business interests in communication with public officials. It is unclear what Pearl's or Banks' income levels are. But Pearl's website says it has represented a number of clients that, according to public records, receive funding from city government agencies. There's no indication any of those clients have engaged in any wrongdoing and all contracts with lobbying firms in addition to working with Pearl. One of Pearl's clients is SaferWatch, an app company whose flagship product, a public safety reporting app, was tested at 5 city schools this last year. Among them was Queens Hillcrest High School, Chancellor Banks' alma mater. Education officials said the pilot has since ended, referring the news to the NYPD for questions about timing. City procurement records show that the NYPD has paid SaferWatch more than $67,000 from school safety and technical assistance services since August 2023. The police department did not respond to multiple inquiries. The Safer Watch app is our new pilot 360-degree approach to school safety that will also be used to notify parents about serious situation that happens in school. Inspector Kevin Taylor, then commanding officer of School Safety Division NYPD, testified at a city council hearing last October. It's unclear what type of work Terence Banks' firm performed for Safer Watch, whose executives didn't return requests for comment Friday. Another company that Pearl lists as a client on his website is Derived Technologies, a Wall Street tech firm that does frequent business with a variety of city agencies. Some of Derived's recent city contracts include one awarded by the Parks Department in July for printer ink, worth $51,155, one issued by the Board of Elections in early April for digital election software worth $409,000, and one worth $23,242 issued in February to give extended warranty protection to the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner's Dell laptops. All of those derived contracts were awarded without a competitive bidding process, as allowed under the city's pure procurement rules for a city-certified minority and woman-owned business. SVAM International is another client of Terence Banks' firm. SVAM, a Greek neck-based IT firm, has a long list of city contracts, including $3.6 million consulting deal with the Department of Environmental Protection. SVAM got a smaller $349,000 contract with DEP in June under the non-competitive MWBE rules. Pearl also lists grocery app Mercado as one of its clients. Mercado got a $19 million contract with the Department of Health in early 2023 prior to Banks launching the Pearl Alliance. Many of the firms Pearl lists as clients also have contracts with registered lobbyists, in some cases targeting administration officials the feds raided last week or others in their close orbit. There is no suggestion of any wrongdoing on the part of those lobbying companies. Mercado, the grocery delivery app, hired lobbyists at Kaiser in 2023 to conduct relationship building with Sheena Wright, the first deputy mayor and longtime partner of Chancellor Banks, whose home and devices were also searched last week. The same year, Safer Watch, the security app, hired former city council speaker Corey Johnson's firm to lobby top lieutenants of both older Banks brothers. City records show the lobbyists were charged with pitching a panic button system to Mark Rampersant, head of school security under Chancellor Banks, as well as Justin Myers, a top aide of Deputy Mayor Banks. Spokespeople for Mercado, SVAM, and Derived did not immediately respond to requests for comment on what type of work Pearl does for them. So if your mind isn't numb by hearing this and reading this about Terence Banks, the third brother of the Banks family, you have Philip Banks, the deputy mayor of public safety, and the school chancellor, David Banks. Here's another article about Terence Banks that's going to be even more mind-numbing. So here's another article by the Daily News. Terence Banks, brother of powerful NYC officials, ensnared in federal probe starting consulting firm while still at MTA. And there's a picture of everybody there together at the Jay-Z's 40/40 Club back in March 2023 with the mayor of nightlife, Eric Adams, handing a proclamation to him. You know, it's just business as usual in the Eric Adams administration. This article is by Chris Sommerfeld. Of course, I mean, he should be in the running for a Pulitzer Prize with his work. Caleb Bamberger, and even Simko Bednarski. He's also been coming up with some good stuff here. So here's the article. Terence Banks, the younger brother of Deputy Mayor for Public Safety Phil Banks and Schools Chancellor David Banks, who is now ensnared in a federal corruption probe, started his political consulting firm while still drawing a salary from the MTA, the Daily News has learned. It was unclear if Banks was actively working for any clients at the time or had simply filed the paperwork for the company. MTA officials wouldn't say whether Banks ran afoul of internal MTA rules because of his involvement with a consulting firm while still on the agency's payroll. Banks, a former MTA supervisor turned government relations consultant, has electronics confiscated in a home searched by the feds Wednesday as part of a sweeping probe, which included raids on his two brothers as well as three other high-ranking Adams administration advisors. Sources tell the news the feds are looking into the question of whether Terence Banks was involved in any unregistered lobbying, as previously reported by the news. His company, the Pearl Alliance, represents multiple companies with city business dealings, including several with financial interests before his brother's agencies. Attorney Tim Sinney, Suffolk County's former district attorney and police commissioner, confirmed Monday that he is representing Terence Banks amid the ongoing federal investigation. We have been assured by the government that Mr. Banks is not a target of this investigation, Sinney told the news. The feds have not leveled any accusations of wrongdoing. Neither Terence Banks nor any employees listed as working at his firm are registered to lobby in New York, according to a review of public records. By law, individuals have to register with the state or the city if they receive income exceeding certain monetary amounts while lobbying, which is defined as advancing private business interests in communications with public officials. It is unclear what Pearl's or Banks' income levels are. On its website, Pearl described itself as a firm that aims to bridge the gap between New York's intricate infrastructure and political landscape, to disconnect between opportunities and those capable of seizing them, and to support minority-owned business growth. Banks retired from the MTA as a train service supervisor on April 24, 2023. After 25 years with the agency, transit sources characterized Banks as a well-liked mid-level subway supervisor. State records reviewed by the news show he'd been planning on jumping into the shark tank of navigating New York City bureaucracy for much of the previous year. Banks incorporated the Pearl Alliance in July 2022, 9 months before leaving the MTA. The New York chapter of the Conference of Minority Transit Officials, an industry group of which Banks was a member, then cited Banks' formation of the Pearl Alliance as among the reasons they gave him their Community Leader of the Year award in October 2022. An MTA official told the news that Banks did not file any paperwork with the transit agency, that the MTA was unaware of any other outside activities before being performed by Banks. Transit workers are expected to file a so-called outside activities form. They engage in a side job or volunteer work that could be perceived as a conflict of interest or reduce their ability to do their day-to-day work. A few weeks before officially departing the MTA, Banks held a retirement party on March 10, 2023 at Jay-Z's 4040 Club near Madison Square Park. The event was packed with local bigwigs. Two of these who had attended the party told the news among the attendees were Mayor Adams, his Cultural Affairs Commissioner Lori Kumbo, and Banks' older brother, Chancellor Banks. The sources said several prominent lawmakers were also at the party, including Assemblywoman Rodney's Bishop Hermelin, I hope I didn't butcher that name, who chairs the Brooklyn Democratic Party, and City Council members Farrell Lewis, Democrat, Brooklyn, Rita Joseph, Democrat, Brooklyn, and Camilla Hanks, Democrat, Staten Island. Former City Council Speaker Corey Johnson, whose lobbying firm Kojo Strategies works for at least one company, also represented by Banks Pearl Alliance, was in attendance too, sources confirmed. A photo shows Adams presented Terence Banks with an official city government proclamation at the party. The same photo posted on Instagram by Lewis shows Bishop Hermelin presented him with a state assembly citation too. Excited to see what awesome endeavors he'll take on next, Lewis captioned the photo. A spokesman for the mayor did not immediately return a request for comment, and neither did Lewis or Bishop Hermelin. As previously reported by the news, multiple companies represented by the Pearl Alliance have done business with the city. One of them, Safer Watch, produces a public safety reporting app that was tested at 5 city schools last year. Safer Watch also has a contract with Johnson's firm Kojo, which was enlisted to lobby top lieutenants of the 2 older Banks brothers, School Chancellor Banks and Deputy Mayor Banks. Neither of the firms working with Pearl, other lobbying companies, nor anyone inside or outside the administration raided by the feds this week have been accused of wrongdoing. So you can see that this is a complete mess, and that now you have Terence Banks, who wasn't even in the radar. He's being dragged into this, and apparently he was acting like a lobbyist while he was still working for the MTA. I mean, these are simple things and simple rules that you follow as a city employee. I guess these guys, maybe the rules don't apply to them. And there's more, because the older brother, that's Philip Banks, and David Banks, or mostly Philip Banks, you know, last time he got caught up in his corruption scandal, it was the same kind of stuff, selling the office out for, you know, he's selling to the highest dollar. And now it sounds like it's influence peddling. That's what is being alleged here. This is wild. But let's get back to Eddie Caban and his brothers. NYPD commissioner expected to step down amid federal probe. Edward Caban and his twin brother are ensnared in a widening investigation. This is from Politico, from Sally Goldenberg, Michael Gartland, Jeff Colton, and Joe Anuda. All very, very distinguished journalists who have been all over the Eric Adams administration. New York, NYPD Commissioner Edward Caban is expected to resign his post in the coming days following news of a federal investigation involving possible corruption. For people familiar with the matter told Politico, Caban was scheduled to meet with police brass Monday as he weighs a decision that is not entirely his to make, according to two people who were granted anonymity to speak freely about a sensitive matter. As of Monday afternoon, he had not officially resigned. We remain focused on ensuring New Yorkers are safe every single day, and that's our top priority. City Hall spokesperson Fabian Levy said, "We're not going to speculate on rumors at this point." Mayor Eric Adams, who readily stands by embattled aides, said of Caban during an unrelated press conference Monday that, "I chose him for his experience of what he brought after 30-something years of service." Rumors are always out there, Adams said. There was nothing that came from me that fed those rumors. However, when the mayor was asked if he could guarantee Caban would still be the police commissioner in 2 months, he declined to do so. "I don't think anything in life is guaranteed," he said. The move would mark the first staff shakeup in the upper ranks of Adams' administration since federal investigators last week descended upon the homes of several top city officials. They also seized Caban's phone and requested phones from the police commissioner's twin brother, James, the commissioner's chief of staff, and Deputy Inspector Robert Galt, among others, Politico reported. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York and the IRS are working on the investigation. NBC New York first reported. Other top members of Adams' administration, including First Deputy Mayor Sheena Wright and Deputy Mayor for Public Safety Philip Banks, were raided by investigators who seized their phones on Wednesday morning. Federal agents also saw electronic devices from Banks' brother, a consultant named Terence Banks, who works with firms, with businesses before the city, and an aide to Adams named Timothy Pearson, who holds sway over the police department, but has nebulous responsibilities. But Caban appears to be receiving the most heat over the last few days. Both the conservative New York Post editorial board, which has been friendly to Adams, and progressive city council member Lincoln Ressler, a mayoral adversary, have called on the police commissioner to resign in recent days. The move would dearly blow to Adams as he gears up for re-election. The moderate Democrat promoted himself as a competent manager and made public safety the keystone of an administration now embroiled in federal probes, including one into his 2021 campaign. The latest probe involves James Caban's nightlife consulting business and whether he profited off his brother's role as commissioner of the NYPD, the New York Post first reported. In an interview Friday with PAX 11, Adams said Caban has driven crime down and that he could continue to do his job despite the investigation. Asked if he had full confidence in Caban, Adams said he did. Adams appointed Caban in July 2023 after former Commissioner Keishon Sewell resigned following 18 months amid frustrations over her oversight in City Hall. Emily No contributed to this report. She's pretty good also. All right, this is from 1010 Wins. NYPD Commissioner Edward Caban faces pressure to step down, but deputies said he has no intention of resigning. New York 1010 Wins. Pressure is mounting on NYPD Commissioner Edward Caban to step down after subpoenas were issued for his cell phone and those of other top police officials, but a spokesperson says he has no intention of resigning. On September 4th, federal agents seized devices from Deputy Mayor for Public Safety Philip Banks, Commissioner Caban, First Deputy Mayor Sheena Wright, Banks' brother, and City Schools Chancellor David Banks, as well as Timothy Pearson, a top mayoral advisor and former high-ranking NYPD official. After reports surfaced that Caban was planning to resign in coming days, Deputy Commissioner of Public Safety Tariq Shepard told 1010 Wins he is still the police commissioner and has no intention of resigning. There is no avail. The police commissioner will address members of the Jewish community in regard to the upcoming high holy days, he added. Mayor Eric Adams fueled speculation about the future of Caban amid the federal investigation. "I don't think anything in life is guaranteed," Adams said during an unrelated press conference on Monday when asked about Caban's position. He explained that he appointed Caban for his experience and the contributions he made to move the NYPD forward. When asked directly about Caban stepping down, Adams responded, "There was nothing that came from me that fed those rumors at all." Over the weekend, local officials such as council member Lincoln Ressler of Brooklyn and Robert Holden of Queens both called on Caban to step down. The investigation, which led to the seizure of Caban's phones and electronics, as well as those of approximately 15 other NYPD members, may center around Caban's twin brother. The probe is reportedly exploring whether his brother arranged security or protection for certain nightclubs, according to sources. Federal agents also interviewed NYPD personnel at a downtown building housing task force units offices, further expanding inquiry to potential connections. No charges have been made and the investigation is ongoing. Early on Monday, Adams canceled events after testing positive for COVID. The mayor is also facing increasing scrutiny after investigators seized devices from several officials in his administration, adding to the challenges facing his leadership amid a separate criminal probe. While none of the officials involved have been charged with a crime, the widespread search warrants have raised concerns about the administration's ability to maintain focus on governing the nation's largest city. The seizures came nearly a year after federal agents seized Adams' phones and iPads as he was leaving an event in Manhattan. Investigators also searched the homes of a top Adams campaign fundraiser and a member of his administration's International Affairs Office. In February, federal authorities searched 2 properties belonging to his Director of Asian Affairs as part of a separate investigation overseen by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Brooklyn. Then earlier this summer, Adams' campaign and City Hall all received subpoenas from federal prosecutors requesting information about the mayor's overseas travel and potential connections to the Turkish government. The most recent round of searches appear to be unrelated to the Turkey inquiry and investigation by Brooklyn federal prosecutors, according to 2 people familiar with the matter who spoke to the Associated Press on a condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to disclose information about the investigators. There is a stench of corruption around the mayor, said Douglas Muzio, a retired political science professor at Baruch College with deep knowledge of New York politics. You've got to believe that at some point, the feeling that the government is not working is going to start pervading the public consciousness. Throughout the various FBI activities, Adams has forcefully maintained that he has followed the law and that he will continue to focus on his duties as mayor. Asked repeatedly at a news conference about his investigations, Adams said his mantra is to stay focused, no distractions, and grind. Fabian Levy, spokesperson for the mayor, said nothing would hamper the administration's ability to govern. For the better part of a year, the mayor has been absolutely clear that as a former member of law enforcement, he will always follow the law, and at the same time, he has stayed focused on delivering for the people of the city. Levy said in a statement Friday, pointing to a recent drop in crime, increases in job numbers, and other city initiatives. In a statement, School Chancellor Banks said, I remain focused on ensuring that they have safe, academically rigorous, and a joyful school year. I'm confirming that I'm cooperating with a federal inquiry. At this time, I cannot comment any further on that matter. News of the latest investigations has provided Adams foes with fresh and potent lines of attack ahead of what is expected to be a heavily contested primary election season for the Democratic mayor. Brad Lender, a Democrat who serves as the city's comptroller, is one of a handful of challengers to Adams in next year's primary, said the fact that investigations are swirling around much of the mayor's top staff could create a level of both distraction and anxiety about trustworthiness and consequences for all New Yorkers. New Yorkers want to know their leaders are focused on their problems and not their own problems. And the staff of agencies also need focused leadership, helping them confront the challenges New Yorkers have, Lander said. Scott Stringer, a former city comptroller, is expected to run against Adams next year, said the investigations are becoming a serious impediment to the day-to-day process of governing. We New Yorkers are not stupid, he said. We know that the government is paralyzed by investigation. I think the mayor needs to step up and tell New Yorkers in a real way everything he knows about what's going on. The Associated Press contributed to this report. All right, so you see how the articles are trying to, one is telling you he was going to resign imminently. Then the Deputy Commissioner of Public Information, Tariq Shepard, the spin doctor who told a reporter last week that they were an effing scumbag. Now he's telling you he's not going to resign. I also thought the city wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. Crime is down. Jobs are up. All my haters become waiters at my table of success. Isn't that the Eric Adams mantra? But I digress. So, we see that there's conflicting reports, and what it really seems like here are the Banks brothers, the trio, are involved in some kind of influence peddling. The Caban brothers, along with the police department officials, are involved in some nightclub security / extortion scheme. This is all what's being reported and what I could draw out of this. And the two kind of mesh, because then you have an outsider like Tim Pearson, the guy with 4 sexual harassment lawsuits. He also has a DOI investigation for, manhandling a female security guard. He also said, "Where's my crumbs?" when it was in regards to that. And he's also in an FBI probe with the sexual harassment lawsuit because they spoke to 3 different people in that investigation, that lawsuit, there was a knock on the door from the FBI trying to talk to 3 victims there. So that guy's a mess. Somehow he still has a job. Eric never wants to terminate anyone because, that's his table of success, all his buddies. So, but there was a hub, and the hub where all of this stuff, where everybody loves to hang out, is the Hall of Felons. And that was Con Sofrito in the Bronx. And what was going on in the Bronx? Well, when you could go back and see all the pictures and videos of all the parties, all the good times it seems they all had, and every felon known to man in the Bronx, was over there, and that's fine, and criminals and thugs, but the police department had no business hobnobbing with these people. Because, again, the appearance of impropriety is tremendous. But yet, they were there. And you know who else was there? The New York State Attorney General, Letitia James, the highest-ranking law enforcement agent in the entire state, hobnobbing with the aforementioned Jimmy Rodriguez, self-admitted criminal and mob associate, who's the creator-manager of Con Sofrito. She's so chummy with this guy, taking pictures. And then she was also at another event where she was once again taking pictures with him. She's also there for fundraisers with other people. So is the district attorney of the Bronx, Darcel Clark, who had 2 fundraisers there, 2 parties for when she was elected. And there is silence from both of them. What happened to those parallel investigations or parallel raids they do where they ask for that from the state, meaning the state attorney general helps out the federal government in their investigations? I guess there was no phone calls there, huh? I wonder why. And I really wonder why there is no comment. There's just silence from 2 attorneys. The state attorney general and the district attorney of Bronx have nothing to say about this. Then you have Carl Hastie, the Assembly Speaker of New York State. And he's another guy that was hanging out there with Patrick Jenkins, a lobbyist. And they're chummy with Jimmy, and they're hanging out all day and night at Con Sofrito, kind of like his clubhouse. And that's basically what it was. It was the Ravenite Club for this crew. That is the appearance of Con Sofrito, a place that should have never been open, that had everything that is, a party shed that was deemed illegal from day one. It was ordered to be torn down by the Department of Buildings. That never happened. The FDNY leveled them with fines, told them it was a fire trap. They didn't do it. They did nothing about that either. And that's despite the fact that Happy Land happened just a few years back, at least in the late 80s, early 90s, where that place went up in flames because it was a fire trap and many people perished. And that's why we have these rules on the books that Con Sofrito just doesn't want to follow because they're above the law, apparently. And then they had multiple court orders that they violated, including one that said you can no longer use the party shed. And on January 6th of 2024, they had a co-sponsored party there from the NYPD with internal affairs. The people that are supposed to investigate a place like this for even having held a party for the New York City Police Department. We don't know what happened there. Finally, the landlord had enough, going back and forth with the court. They finally told them it has to go, the shed. They finally tore it down 5 months later. And as they're tearing it down, they're advertising another illegal party that they had in the parking lot, where New York City Sheriff Anthony Miranda, he was at that party. He was drinking with Jimmy Rodriguez outside instead of putting a padlock on it because they were having an illegal party against a court order and selling alcohol without an open premise license. That premise license is on site. It's in the building. It doesn't go outside. I don't know what that was about. And, of course, the New York City Police Department standing outside, smiling, taking pictures, going in there, maybe having a booze here and there in uniform. That's what happened in the final days of Con Sofrito, which finally was ordered to be shut down by a judge. But let's go back to the beginning. In 2021, there was an incident that happened there. And that incident is documented. And I have legally obtained a document that is very important and potent to this whole puzzle here, what we believe or what may be happening here. And there's a lot of questions just arising out of this. So here's a post from my ex at the Greco. Where does the NYPD Vice Enforcement Division Human Trafficking Unit stand on the criminal referral involving Con Sofritos in the Bronx? The community awaits answers on this critical matter. Transparency is key in light of recent developments. Hashtag human trafficking. Hashtag the Sal Greco Show. I'm going to show you this document. And in this document right here, it says, stated in August of 2021, and it's forwarded to the 45th precinct, which is where Con Sofrito and the confines of where it's located. And there's a report here. An incident happening there. It looks like an assault 3. There's actually 2 reports on it. And here is what they stated in this letter. Please assign not conforming to method of operation dancing. Prosecutors should check in with precinct to see how problematic this place is. And on the bottom of this letter, the official of where this came from is the Vice Human Trafficking Unit. Vice Human Trafficking Unit. That's where this letter came from. But, wait, there's another one. A second letter comes in. Same incident, same people forwarded to. It says, also looks like they're using an unauthorized trade name. Once again, the Vice Human Trafficking Unit. Vice Human Trafficking Unit. That's where this letter came from. A criminal referral. Whatever happened to that? And in fact, whatever happened to the SLA investigation into these incidents that occurred there? There's no record of anything. In fact, the SLA closed this investigation and never explained why. And then there's been a litany of issues that occurred after, and yet it always remained open. The question is why? And what happened with that criminal referral to the Vice Human Trafficking Unit? Do you know what the Vice Unit even entails, what they are, tasked with solving? It's human trafficking, drugs, prostitution, organizations that do child trafficking. I mean, you're talking about a serious crime that would have been investigated through a criminal referral on a place owned by the police commissioner's brother, who frequents the place an awful lot of times, and so do many other high-ranking NYPD officials, including high-ranking law enforcement agents in the state, and even the Lieutenant Governor, Benjamin, and Lieutenant Governor after him, Delgado. They were there. So, look, this is a question that needs to be answered by the NYPD. It is unbelievable that this is floating out there, and when is anyone going to ask this question to the New York State Police Department? Where's the Deputy Commissioner of Public Information? I guess I must be an effing scumbag also if he's just going to remain silent on this. Well, here is an interview I did with Jason Burmas, and we actually were discussing some of what I just stated with this incident here, with this criminal referral, and here it is.
We apologize for the technology gremlins. As I was talking about, we've got more corruption in New York City, and amongst the NYPD Commissioner, Edward Caban, and his twin brother, here to talk about it, is our resident expert on all corrupt NYPD activities, former NYPD officer Sal Greco. Now, Sal, I tweeted at you earlier this week with these raids. You expect Caban to actually step down. That's at the top of your feed right now. Tell us what's going on.
Okay, so right now they're scrambling at one police plaza. They're having a meeting. My phone's ringing off the hook. In this meeting, they're trying to figure out who is going to replace who. Ed Caban shall be stepping down. If it's not by the end of today, it should be at least maybe by Wednesday. Eric Adams, unfortunately, you almost feel sorry for the guy, but I mean, he's one of the most conflicted individuals we've ever known to be in politics. He has COVID. So I guess that meeting he's supposed to have tomorrow with the press conference is not going to happen. And either he has really bad luck or he's looking to duck the whole situation. It's a mess, Jason. But Eddie Caban, his days as police commissioner are numbered.
Well, I love the COVID thing. Like that's just the best now. I mean, we're still pretty much at the tail end of summer, guys. I mean, there might be a few cool fall nights over in NYC and wherever he's dancing at night. But give me a break. Let's talk about this guy's twin brother. He's being called a fixer. He was, in the NYPD for a very, very long time. You and I have had these discussions where obviously there are large circles of corruption, unfortunately, when we talk about the NYPD and really the hierarchy, right? It seems the more compromised you are, the more you're willing to wheel and deal. The upper echelons, you tend to go beyond captain in the NYPD. So what is this fixer allegation?
The fixer allegation here, Jason, is that there were other people involved with this. So they're alleging that there's Philip Banks, who's the deputy mayor of public safety. You remember I've mentioned him before. He was once in a public corruption scandal years ago when he was the chief of the department. All right, he was an unindicted co-conspirator. Somehow they brought him back. So he's the deputy mayor of public safety. He's got some private little office over there in Verizon building in New York City. And then his deputy, who's also an advisor to Eric Adams, Timothy Pearson. So you have Philip Banks, Timmy Pearson. Philip Banks' brother, David Banks, is the chancellor of the schools. That guy also had his stuff taken. And his wife, Sheena Wright, who's the deputy mayor to Eric Adams, his right-hand woman, as far as his staff goes, as far as deputy mayors go, her phone was taken. Then Timothy Pearson, who is his advisor, and this little circle combined with Eddie Caban, his brother, James, who was a former police officer that was fired, and he spent time in jail as the slumlord of the Bronx. You can look that article up. And his other brother, Richard Caban, the former lieutenant, who, as we know, is the owner of the place that's subjected into this investigation in the Bronx. Everybody knows the name by now. Con Sofrito over there on Commerce Avenue, which was managed by a mob associate and self-admitted criminal, the one and only, the infamous Jimmy Rodriguez. This circle here is involved. The Caban brothers were going around with a police detail. Now, I don't know if this is what's being said. I don't know if they mean active police. I don't know if they mean retired. But remember, James is Eddie Caban's twin brother. You can't tell the difference. You have to really look to see who's who. And they were going around the nightclub scenes and basically extorting these people, which would be
So wait a minute, let me
insane.
just stop you right there. Let me just stop you right there. Let's talk about the aspect of the twin brother thing. Now, I'm not trying to start any conspiracy theories, but one could posit in some of these shakedowns or meetings, maybe one brother was posing as the other or vice versa on any given Sunday, depending on the situation. And what do I mean by that? So if they do have similar dietary habits, and it's very hard to tell them apart. It might be a little more conducive if you're the commissioner in one situation or you're a beat cop in another situation. Maybe when you're running a nightclub with your other brother, you're not running it, you're just hanging out, that also has mafia ties.
Yeah.
I mean, just one could speculate. Now, whether or not we'll find that out, I don't know, but we are talking about private communications now that go years and years and years with these cell phones, being taken. Your thoughts?
Also, department phones, Jason. Remember, they went to One Police Plaza. They took all the electronics. They took the hard drives out of the computers. And then the IRS shows up and does the same thing. So this goes back to there's financial crimes. That's what they're looking at. It's got to be finances. There's also going to be a criminal aspect because what's being reported is that there's this criminal protection ring. But where is a senator around, Jason? Where have we seen these guys all the time? Con Sofrito. The names I mentioned have all been there, pictured there. I can show you. It's all over social media. You got the mayor, Eric Adams, there. I go, there's other people here that are very silent, and it's deafening. The New York State Attorney General, Letitia James, who hangs out with these people and is pictured all over the place with these people, and is also a frequenter of Con Sofrito, where she's been seen at numerous fundraisers and parties. Her silence is deafening. Why wasn't this a parallel investigation with the state? Why didn't she ask for one? Why isn't she involved? We have Darcel Clark, the district attorney, very close with the Caban brothers, takes pictures with Eddie Caban, had two party fundraisers at Con Sofrito with a bunch of other politicians like the Bronx borough president, Vanessa Gibson, with Ralph Salamanca, the city councilman, who's the city councilman close to that area, but not in that area. Amanda Farias, another councilwoman, very close to Jimmy Rodriguez and Richard Caban. These people now start to jump in the limelight. Why? The two attorneys here, and Letitia James and Darcel Clark, their silence is deafening. They were frequenting that place numerous times. Their pictures are there. Their videos are there. What do you have to say for yourself? Your friends are being picked up by the feds, and if there was anything going on, did you not see this? Did you miss this? Were you told anything? Did you throw this in the trash? What's going on here? And Jason, if you actually look at the top of my X, the very top post is a letter. This is a letter I legally obtained. And it's from the police department to the SLA. And what it is a criminal referral back in 2021. And this is when Richard Caban owned the place. He just started being the owner that year. And an incident occurred at Con Sofrito in the Bronx. And it was a criminal referral to the Vice Enforcement Division. And the Human Trafficking Unit is the one that wrote that email back. So they received a criminal referral.
So when we're talking about the criminal referral, you said SLA, that's the state liquor authorities running a bar.
Correct.
So when that happens, how does the human trafficking aspect get referred into?
Well, so when you refer things to Vice, there's only a few things they look at. And they look at if there's any organizations, if there's any child trafficking, and they look at drugs, prostitution, trafficking. These are major crimes that would occur in the nightclub and the nightlife. When Vice gets criminally referred to something, they then come in and they do their own investigation. Now, but to see the Human Trafficking Unit be involved in this, that's a whole nother level. What is that? What are you trying to say? That's a criminal referral, right? What happened to this? Because the next thing you know, Jason, the SLA wipes out that investigation, and then it's party time. The Department of Buildings comes in, says, tear down the shed. The shed, they're partying to the break of dawn. We have the fire department issuing numerous summonses. It's a fire trap. No problem. They keep partying on. So now they're violating court orders. They're told to, pay the fines. They're not doing that. Then they finally hit them with the lawsuit from the landlord that said they violated their own lease. The lease even says they can only serve alcohol on the premise, not in the shed. So they were told to tear it down. They never tore it down. There was a court order to tear it down. They still held an official NYPD sponsored party by Internal Affairs of all people. Then they finally tore it down months later, only to, while they agreed to this, they were advertising a party where they held it outside in the parking lot and they were serving liquor outside to the New York City sheriff, Anthony Miranda, who has the power to shut them down, with the NYPD in front. And there's Jimmy Rodriguez smiling with his little bottle of whatever rum, whatever they're selling together. So that is the story of Con Sofrito. And then they finally closed. The marshals came a couple weeks ago. They agreed that, the judge said, that's it, party's over. So it took 4 years from beginning to end when they owned it till the last day for it to even close. And there's all this mishigas surrounding this place. And it's unbelievable that now we need answers from the police department. What happened to that criminal referral?
Well, I don't know if we're going to get those answers. Sal, we got to have you back. It's always great. You can follow him at the Sal Greco over on X. We got to take a break. More TNT after this.
So there you have it. This is a, continuing investigation that's going on into the New York City Police Department upper echelon. I am led to believe that Police Commissioner Ed Caban, his days are numbered. If he didn't resign, whatever day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, he will be resigning shortly. That is my belief. I believe he should step down immediately. I also don't understand why the other high-ranking officers are not modified at this time. They should be modified. I believe any rank beneath the rank of inspector would have been modified, but yet no one's been modified. These chiefs are still running around in unmarked cars, collecting their pension checks. Well, they're going to collect their pension if they don't resign, but they're still collecting their checks. So this is really a question of how long until the dam breaks. And there's going to be more stuff. There was a report that James Caban, the twin brother, that he was arrested by the IRS. Apparently, this was a false alarm. So this is just going to continue. You're going to hear things, and don't get stuck chasing something that's false, because there's going to be a lot of rumors. I like to bring you the truth, and I'm still sitting here, and my prediction is Ed Caban will step down very shortly. It might be a matter of days. It might be a week. They might need to fill in the slots of whatever it is, whoever it is that they're going to replace, but it will happen. That I could basically guarantee. There is no way this can be allowed to stand, having an individual like this leading the department. And by the way, there's a lawsuit out there. It's by Jamac Romero. The attorney on that case is my attorney, Eric Sanders. He makes a lot of allegations on that lawsuit. He was terminated for some domestic violence stuff that actually wasn't really attributed to him, and it was found not guilty, but didn't matter. They still terminated him, and yet his allegations were in direct response to what we're seeing here. It was about Con Sofrito and how you basically had all these cops hobnobbing with felons up there. And then these allegations of there was prostitution allegation, there were sales of drugs allegation. There was also these, discounted meal allegations. And boy, oh boy, that might be a dead ringer for something 11 months ago that was true then. That's even truer now. But this allegation went to EEOC, and then the police department has not responded 11 months later. And the media is also silent about that too. What is it about Con Sofrito that everyone was trying to hide? That is also another question. But there will be more to come. I figured I'd give the audience a basic round view of what's going on, but there'll be more and more to come out. But we'll have to wait and see how this goes. New York City is a mess. It might be even more corrupt than the days of Detective Serpico. So, with that being said, this has been Sal Greco on the Sal Greco Show. If you liked what you just heard, if you like what you saw, if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, click the like button, and on Rumble, hit the Rumble button on Apple, Spotify, Google Play. Give it a good rating. And we'll have to wait and see what occurs next. I still pray for the men and women in the police department and of New York City. And as much as I want to discuss other things, other current events, I think this is probably one of the most important things that is going on right now. New York City is in the forefront. It's the financial capital of the world. And you have one of the most corrupt police departments in the world over there today. It's the largest police force and the most conflicted human being to be a politician today as the mayor. And in fact, Eric Adams, you should resign as well. I'll see you on the next one.